Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and as you probably know, I am an interior designer, but I'm also a real person. And sometimes you just can't renovate your house with every new trend, every update, every new thing. And today we're talking about how to take your home that may be feeling a little dated and make it look beautiful without having to buy into every one of the new and latest trends. And yes, we do have our monitor here, Arden, on the sofa behind me. Don't mind him, or do if you want to, because he's gonna mind you. He's inspecting and checking everything out. The first thing we have to talk about is actually something that we all notice when we enter a space, when we see, and it just makes it look messy. And that's a big thing I want you to remember here always, is that, like, yeah, maybe something is a little bit older, okay? Like maybe it's somebody's personal style, and that's fine. Not every style is for everyone. My house isn't for you, your house isn't for me, although you could come over. We have a little coffee sometime, maybe, we'll see. But what really makes a home look beautiful is when it doesn't look messy. When it doesn't look messy. And one of the biggest messy things I see in a home that you never see in a magazine are cords and cables and wires that are exposed and just hanging out on the ground. It just always looks messy, and we always see it. The wires and everything are not elevated. They're not beautiful and gorgeous. But the reality of life is that we live in homes with electricity, and we like to plug things into it to, you know, have things. Like, I love lamps. As many lamps as possible, but you're always gonna see the cords and cables for a lamp, a plug for it, right? So you have to be thinking about, how can we overcome this? What's the best we can do with this? And there's a million hacks out there for it. If you have a television, I always say have it mounted on the wall, have a contractor out to put the cables behind the wall, and it's like super clean, super sleek. If you're renting, you could always get a cable management system linked in my Amazon storefront. And you can find that link in the description box down below, that, you know, you can cover it with, paint it to match the wall, put a piece of decor in front of it, none's the wiser, nobody knows it's there. But when it comes to all of the lamps and everything in your house, you might not always be able to do that. So what I will do is, I pretend it's not there adjacent. I just don't wanna have wires on the ground, right? Because if I'm vacuuming and cleaning, I'm just not gonna do it. And I know the people in your family, if the kids are doing the chores in the house, they're probably not putting the most effort into it because it's a chore, they don't wanna do it. So they're not gonna move the cable to vacuum underneath it to get the dust bunnies there. They're just gonna vacuum around it and move on. I don't like that. So I will take and wrap my cords up and then just tape them onto the back of the furniture piece that the lamp is sitting on. Boom, 10 out of 10, it's perfect. Yeah, the plug is still there. It's still there because this is a real house. It's not a staged magazine. While we're on the topic of some of these basic things that will make a home look way better, you know, a part of hiding those wires is decluttering, right? Like, we want it to be clean and sleek. Declutter, 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 declutter. Like, you all know I love looking at houses that are for sale. Everybody does. Everybody loves to look at houses that are for sale, but I always see them where it's like, they just have stuff packed everywhere, like every inch of floor space, like the linear space around the edges of a wall where the baseboards are, they will just have all of these little bits of pieces of furniture. It's like a little shelf and a chair and a lamp and this and all of this stuff. And like, I don't approve of any of that other than the lamp, because I love great lighting and maybe a good accent chair or two. Or a nice storage piece of furniture is also really great, but you know, with limitations. When we can see your baseboards or like the corners of a space, it feels huge. It feels so much bigger to see this, instead of it just being like a bunch of stuff lined up against a wall. Like, it's giving thrift store, honestly. That's kind of I mean, I love a good thrift store too, but like for vintage decor is great. I don't want to live there though. I want my house to be beautiful and elegant and timeless. And you can make your house look a lot bigger by decluttering some of those items that are, you know, kind of hanging out around the space. If you buy a lot of smaller pieces to use, like furniture pieces, they tend to build up and there's bulkiness there, and it just feels messy. We need a little bit of negative space there. So sometimes it makes sense, even in a smaller room, to get a bigger piece of furniture, because we don't need a ton of little pieces of furniture. Like, a big storage piece of furniture is great in a small space, because it gives us a lot of storage and we don't have to look at all of the clutter and the mess. Decluttering, an easy way to take a space that looks really busy and kind of tired and really revamp it and make it look beautiful. We all know somebody whose house maybe is a little cluttered, maybe feels a little claustrophobic, and that we're kind of tired of very quickly, we're overwhelmed by, and we're ready to leave. You don't want to be that person, and neither do I. And decluttering is a conversation I often have to have with my clients. As many of you know, I am an interior designer and I offer my services on a consultation basis. If you need any help making some decisions or getting some truth and an honest answer as to what's going on or what needs to change in your home, think about booking a consultation with me. You can use the link in the description box down below or go to intro.co/GarrettLeChic to book that with me, and I'll see you there. Something that I think always makes a home look beautiful, elegant, timeless, no matter the style of it, is a little bit of vintage. And I'm usually looking to add vintage in a style that's maybe a little bit different than everything else that's happening. And that's a really good way to take a dated home and make it feel more timeless by taking some of those dated elements. Like a lot of times you'll have a big oversized sofa that just feels like early 2000s or late 90s. But a lot of times we can pair that with a vintage piece, like a vintage chair or a console table, that will all of a sudden shift it into being something that feels more like, oh, it's aligned with an antique style or something. Or what I like to do in my house is I like to mix very traditional and very modern pieces of furniture together. It just feels like cultivated and layered and chic and interesting to me. So I will get a vintage piece that is mid-century, and I will get a vintage piece or an antique piece to pair that with. And sometimes I'll buy a vintage piece of upholstery and pair it with a brand new modern reproduction of an antique or something like that, to kind of create this juxtaposition that when something feels out or dated, something else feels current, fresh, and new, so we always have a sense of timelessness within our home. And that's what I want for all of my clients. I want, obviously, to stick to their personal style. Like, obviously, you know, if I'm your interior designer and I'm going there and I'm telling you what I think you need to do, I'm not gonna say like, okay, get rid of everything, we're starting from scratch, and then here's the style you're going to have because this is what's new. I'm gonna take a look around and say, okay, what are the pieces that are working for you and what are we ready to let go of? That's a really important piece. We'll build off of that and develop a style that's personal to you that relates to that one piece. And that's how you should be looking at accessorizing, adding vintage or antiques, anything into your home, be it something brand new or something vintage. You want to look at your style and then say, how do we layer on this? How do we make it more timeless? How do I make that look more current or more antique or more vintage, like it's been here for a long time, or maybe like I just brought it in? If you come into my house, you know that I like something that's a little bit polished, a little bit glamorous, a little sophisticated, but I also like an interesting reference, and I'm not afraid to have something that I think is a little bit funny or a little quirky, and you know, maybe something is off. Like a lot of people will say the mirror above my fireplace is too small. I disagree. But I like that piece because it's an empire style piece and it just layers nicely with the other pieces of furniture in my house. It brings a reference point there that I really enjoy, like the brass sconces I have. It all just works for me personally and brings me a lot of joy. That's what you have to have in your house. If you are engaging in content and somebody is telling you what you're doing is wrong, or that your style isn't correct, or that what they're doing is right and you have to do that in your home, if it's a designer or a design commentator, run. You don't have to do that in your home. You genuinely have to be happy in your own space. And maybe that requires you to get rid of everything and start from scratch if that's the position you're in. My clients, 90% of the time, they have pieces that are very sentimental to them. So we're looking at how do we take that and then elevate their style in some interesting way that works personally for them. That's what you have to do in your home. Speaking of what you need to do in your home, something else I think that really always brings a home that feels a little bit dated into feeling a little bit modern or more relevant, more up to date, is great lighting. And the way you're gonna do that is through layered lighting, and the way you do that, you get layered lighting in your home, is by bringing in more alternative lighting like lamps. I love a great lamp, and a lamp is also a really good place to bring vintage into your home. It's a really good place because there's just some cool stuff out there. Lamps are so interesting. You can get a new shade. You can completely change the character of a lamp with a new shade on it. I just love vintage lighting. It's always so great. Lighting is a great place to make a reference, and it sets the style of your space. So if you're renting, for example, and the space might not have great style, okay? It might just be like a generic building. Talk to your landlord, but changing out the lighting is an easy and simple task you can have an electrician do, like the overhead lights, sconces potentially if you have them, to really define your style within that space. and then you just have it changed back when you move out to the original fixtures, and everybody's happy. And if you're living in your home and you're like, I want to redefine the style, I want to do this, I want it to all be modern and current and all of this and contemporary, let's bring in some mid-century style light fixtures. That way we have a little bit of a vintage reference point. And that's really great, be it a lamp, be it that overhead fixture. Look for a cantilevered lamp. That's really great. And if you're looking to create a space that has a little bit of a homey, cozy vibe to it, I like that. I like a little bit of a transitional space for a lot of my clients. That's the style they gravitate towards. I might say, like, let's find a sofa that has really clean and sleek lines, but then let's find a floor lamp with a swing arm that has a little bit more of a traditional feel to it to make that reference point. I think vintage is great. It's a good place to bring it in. More lighting is always better. It always makes your home feel more elevated, chic, sophisticated, timeless. Layered lighting is great. Warm bulbs, I do 2700 for the temperature in alternative lighting sources, lamps, maybe even an overhead fixture, but if I'm doing recessed lighting, I'll go a little bit brighter and like just the overall space might do 3,000, 3,500 in a kitchen, maybe 4,000 in a bathroom, but that's like the maximum. Actually, I'd probably stick with 3,500. But keep all of those tips in mind when it comes to lighting in your home because it will transform your house. And also the color schemes you have going on, it softens it, makes it a little warmer and a little bit easier to enjoy when you have all of the lights on. And hey, listen, if you're enjoying watching the video and hanging out with me and you wanna do it a few times a week, I would love to have you join our GarrettLeChic family by hitting that subscribe button and becoming a part of it. I greatly appreciate if you gave this video a like. And listen, if you know somebody that is looking to do some updates to their house, but they don't know where to start or they're finding it overwhelming, this would be a great video to share with them. Oh, and here comes Arden to say hello. And he says, share this video with a friend because friends help friends. Don't they, Arden? Don't they? Oh, yeah. And little puppies, what do they want? They want to beg for treats. They want to beg for a little bone. You want a bone? A bone? Okay, why don't you go and run around and look for your brother? Or not. Okay. Well, he's scampering around and doing his little things. Let's talk about another way you can easily update a dated home. And I see this all of the time, especially with my clients that like, they have something that's a specific color or they're doing something a little adventurous. It's all about a color scheme. And most of the time I find that people will be drawn to something or like one piece, they'll gravitate towards something in a color and then they're like, this is great, let's bring it in. But then it doesn't have a relationship to anything else in that space. And then it starts to get to the point where it's like, I've done this a few times, I have a lot of different colors and things don't all really connect well at all. Like, so you start feeling like it's dated and you want to restart and, you know, start from scratch and just be like, you're overwhelmed because nothing feels like it's coordinating. You got to coordinate those colors. I love blue. It's my favorite color. In reality, the only reason this room is not painted blue right now is because that room over there is painted blue. And then upstairs, I have a blue room. Like, fully, I'm like addicted to this color. So I got a blue sofa. It's a commitment. It's a big piece in my home. It was an expensive piece too. So I committed to something that I knew I was gonna love for a very long time because it was a big commitment. And that's fine. This sofa is at this point like 2-3 years old. I still come down these stairs every single day and I fall in love with it all over again because I chose something that was really personal to me and works with my personal style. I had a lot of other blue stuff in here. I got blue pillows on the sofa, I got blue chairs over there, I got blue chairs in the other room, the whole other room is blue. You can commit to a color that you really like, but then we have to start making references. The whole point is you can use throw pillows to create an accent, to brighten and refresh a space, and to make flow happen. You can create a cohesive color scheme by adding in a little bit more of some of the colors you might be missing or use them to drown out a color you maybe don't want to see that much. Something else you can do in your space is add in some great features. Now, what do I mean by that? Because features could mean a lot of different things. You can obviously add in a statement moment or a great focal point like a fireplace, but well, that's hard to add in. Let's be real. I mean, adding in a fireplace is not a small endeavor. If you already have one, you could update it. Sure, you could add in an electric fireplace. Once again, it's expensive though, and that might just not be for everybody. Even just adding in a mantle, like a faux mantle and kind of, you know, painting the inside of it black creates the illusion or the fantasy of that focal point, and I love that. Now, what I really meant by a feature is some sort of great detail. I love a great detail in a space. And you know, this house, when we bought it, well, let's just say it needed many of them, and we added them in because it was a colonial style on the exterior, but inside it was like original mid-century with the teal carpets and everything. A mess, a total mess. Ugh, can you imagine me in it? It was, well, you probably, if you've been here for a while, you saw me in it, but that's beside the point. I went in and did a lot of changes to this house. We had a lot of help. My husband helped me do a lot of the things, but we paneled all of the ceilings to create some of that vibe and detail. We added new moldings. I didn't add the moldings, and the flooring people put the moldings in. We changed out all the flooring, a lot of things to bring that colonial style into the house a little bit, and then we juxtapose that with more modern pieces of furniture. But those features make the house make sense. It just makes it flow nicely and looks good from outside and inside. A feature I love to recommend to people is applied moldings. They're just the moldings that are on the wall, and there's many different ways you can do this, different styles of it, so I suggest you just do a little bit of research on your style and what other people have done. But applied moldings are great because they add a nice detail. I actually saw a space that had applied moldings and then had mirrored subway tile in it also. That was super interesting, and a mirror is always a good way to add more light into a space to bounce that around a little bit. Something else you can do in the realm of like a feature or a detail or adding something is just a big oversized piece of art or a mirror. These are great things to add. Great things to add, because adding a really big element on a wall, like an oversized piece of art, like a big mirror, does a lot of things. A big mirror bounces a lot of light around, like we said, so it kind of creates the illusion that a space is bigger and brighter than it maybe is. But a large piece of artwork, and I don't mean like, oh, it's big. I mean huge. I mean a giant piece of artwork feels modern. It just always feels modern no matter what it is. And depending on the styling of the space, you could bring that in to really revamp and modernize your home and make it feel really current, really elevated and relevant and up to date. And you know, artwork, oversized, large artwork can be many different things. It could be, you know, you do wallpaper panels. I love that. With, you know, you don't have to commit to actually doing a full room in wallpaper. You could do a tapestry. Oversized pieces of art or decor are really good. Sometimes it's even just a large or a really tall cabinet that can be really great to create a sense of scale and presence in a space. And then maybe you do it in an interesting color or wood tone that really juxtaposes what's happening to create that more modern effect. I love a big, giant, oversized piece to create a focal or a statement moment in a space. Large artwork, 10 out of 10. Well, there you have it, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while. If you like this video, be sure you check out this one right over here, all about some design mistakes that might be aging your home that we can let go of. And I will see you over there.